There's something profoundly paradoxical about the human condition that I find endlessly fascinating. We spend our entire lives clutching at things, clutching at security, at relationships, at identities, at ideas about who we should be. And yet, the very act of clutching creates the tension that prevents us from receiving what we most deeply desire. Think about it for a moment. When you hold your hand in a tight fist, you can't receive anything. Your hand is closed. But when you open your palm, when you relax those fingers, suddenly the whole universe can place gifts there. This isn't just a cute metaphor. This is the fundamental principle of how life actually works. We live in a culture that has taught us the opposite. We've been conditioned to believe that life is a competitive struggle, that we must grasp and fight and control everything, or else we'll be left with nothing. From the time we're children, we're taught to hold on. Hold on to your toys, hold on to your grades, hold on to your career, hold on to your reputation. We become professional holders on, white knuckling our way through existence. But what if I told you that this entire approach is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of reality itself? You see, the universe doesn't work by force, it works by flow. Water doesn't struggle to be water, it simply flows. Trees don't strain to grow, they simply grow. Your heart doesn't clutch at each beat, it rhythmically expands and contracts in a dance that's been going on since before you were conscious of having a heart at all. Life is a process of give and take, of breathing in and breathing out. You can't inhale forever. If you try to hold your breath indefinitely, you'd die. The very act of living requires letting go. You must exhale to make room for the next breath. This is so obvious, so fundamental, and yet we forget it entirely when it comes to how we live our psychological lives. We hold on to grievances from 10 years ago, nursing them like precious treasures. We hold on to anxiety about futures that haven't happened and probably never will. We hold on to identities that no longer serve us, simply because we're terrified of the unknown space that might open up if we release them. But here's what I want you to understand. That unknown space, that emptiness that terrifies you, that's not a void, that's potential. That's the fertile ground where everything new grows. Consider the farmer. Does he hold on to last year's harvest? Does he clutch the seeds in his fist, afraid to let them go into the dark earth? Of course not. He knows that to get more, he must let go. He must surrender those seeds to the soil, trust the process, and wait. The seed must actually die to its seed nest to become a plant. It must let go of what it was to become what it can be. You are no different. Every moment you cling to who you think you are, you prevent yourself from becoming who you might be. Every moment you hold tight to security, you block the flow of abundance that wants to move through your life. Now I can hear the objection already. But Alan, if I just let go of everything, won't I lose everything? Won't I end up destitute alone with nothing? And this is where we must be very clear about what letting go actually means. Letting go doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean being irresponsible or careless. It doesn't mean you stop taking action or that you become some kind of limp noodle that life pushes around. Not at all. Letting go means releasing the illusion of control. It means understanding that you were never in control in the first place, and that's not a problem, it's liberation. Think about how you learn to ride a bicycle. At first, you gripped those handlebars so tight, every muscle tense, trying to force the bike to stay upright through sheer willpower. And what happened? You wobbled, you fell, you crashed. But then, at some magical moment, you relaxed. You let go the rigid control, you trusted the bike's momentum. You allowed your body to make subtle adjustments without thinking. And suddenly you were riding. The less you tried to control it, the better you rode. This is true of everything in life. The best conversations happen when you stop trying to control what you'll say next and just listen and respond naturally. The best relationships develop when you stop trying to make someone be what you want and simply appreciate who they are. The best opportunities come when you stop forcing your agenda, remain open to what presents itself. Life is intelligent. The universe is not a dead mechanical thing that requires your constant manipulation. It's a living, breathing, creative process, and you're part of it. When you align with that process instead of fighting it, when you move with the current instead of against it, everything becomes easier. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges. Life will still present difficulties. But there's a world of difference between facing a challenge with a clenched mind and facing it with an open one. When you're not attached to a specific outcome, when you've let go of your rigid expectations, you can respond to whatever arises with creativity and flexibility. You can dance with reality instead of wrestling with it. I often think of the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, which translates roughly as effortless action or action through non action. It's acting in harmony with the natural flow of things. It's like sailing. You don't fight the wind, you work with it. You adjust your sails, you feel the current, you move with the elements rather than against them. The greatest artists, the finest athletes, the most successful people in any field will tell you the same thing. Their best work happens when they get out of their own way. When the painter stops trying to paint and just paints. When the musician stops thinking about the notes and becomes the music. When the athlete stops trying to perform and simply plays. This is the state of flow, and it only comes through letting go. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. When you let go, when you stop grasping and controlling, you create space, and nature abhors a vacuum. When you create space in your life, life rushes in to fill it, often with things far better than what you were clutching at. Think about it in practical terms. If your hands are full of junk, you can't pick up treasure. If your schedule is crammed with obligations that drain you, there's no room for opportunities that energize you. If your mind is cluttered with worry about the past and future, you can't see the beauty and possibility in the present moment. Letting go creates capacity, it creates openness. It takes tremendous bravery to release control, to trust the unknown, to stand in uncertainty without immediately trying to resolve it. Our culture doesn't teach us this kind of courage. We're taught to have plans and backup plans and contingency plans. Oh, this really just fear in a mass now. It's the courage to let life surprise you. And here's what I can promise you from my own experience. When you develop this capacity to let go, when you cultivate this kind of trust, life becomes an adventure instead of a burden. Instead of constantly defending yourself against a hostile universe, you begin to play with a friendly one. You start to notice synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, doors opening just when you need them. Not because the universe is suddenly working differently, but because you're finally paying attention. You're finally open to receiving what's been there all along. The more you let go, the more life gives you. Not because letting go is a technique for getting what you want, but because letting go reveals that you already have everything you need. The abundance was always here. You just couldn't see it through all your grasping and clutching and controlling. So I invite you to experiment with this. Start small if you need to. Notice where you're holding on tight. Maybe it's an opinion you don't need to defend. Maybe it's a plan that isn't working. Maybe it's a hurt you've been nursing. Maybe it's just the tension in your shoulders right now as you listen to these words. What would it be like to let go? Not forever, not dramatically, just for this moment. What would it be like to unclench, to soften, to open? Try it. See what happens. You might be surprised to discover that the thing you were so desperately holding together doesn't fall apart when you release it. Instead, it might reorganize itself into something more beautiful than you could have planned. Life is not a problem to be solved through control. It's a mystery to be lived through participation. And participation requires open hands, an open mind, an open heart. The river doesn't clutch at the water, it lets it flow through. The sky doesn't hold on to the clouds, it lets them drift past. The ocean doesn't grasp at the waves, it allows them to rise and fall in their natural rhythm. You are the river, the sky, the ocean. Let go, flow, trust, receive.